education system has not been built to shift and change as fast as AI is pushing us to. But I go back to screen time habits. I think it's a real threat for our kids' focus. They need to learn how to turn it on and turn it off. And we have to be really intentional about those conversations and how we connect as people. We're not in this distracted environment. We're connected with the people that are most important to us, whether it be learning or just socially with our friends or with your family. That's too valuable time to throw away.
You're listening to the SmartSocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online.
Hi, I'm Katie Page. I'm the Instructional Technology Coordinator for District 214.
Hi, my name is Scott Rowe. I'm the Superintendent of High School District 214. We serve about 12,000 students in 7 high schools in the northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Thank you to both of you for being here today. Welcome to our audience, whether you are a superintendent, a parent, or an amazing staff member or parent or guardian in between. We love you. And here at SmartSocial, we're here to keep your kids safe so they can someday be successful. And that means shining online so that they are putting the positive things they're creating online. All right, we've got a lot of questions here from my guest experts today on the pod. Now, after 240 plus superintendent conversations nationwide in 43 plus states, we've heard some consistent trends, and I want to get our experts here today, my guests' opinions on them and thoughts and insights. To all of our audience, you know I'm going to take copious notes. So if you see me looking down and writing, it's because I'm learning from these experts so we can build the best program ever. Now, first of all, we're hearing from the challenges in 25-26. We're hearing from superintendents and district leaders, just like Katie, that the hidden direct messages are causing problems. We've got dangerous TikTok challenges. We've got group text messages that can cause bullying and FOMO. Students are chatting with AI and or unknown people. Inappropriate content, which happens off campus, becomes everybody's problem on campus on Monday morning on school. And last, a lot of superintendents say, Josh, if you can fix this last one, it fixes all of them. If we can make the screen time, we can reduce that or make the phone addiction go down. The rest will melt away. I want to hear first from Katie. Katie, what trends are you seeing in your community or other communities when it comes to these general 6?
Yeah, the most recent one is actually off of social media, or probably what parents wouldn't consider social media, which is on our learning management system. Kids have figured out how to group text message or, like group message each other. It's kind of like a text, kind of like a group message on this platform. It was happening for a little bit, but now we've shut it down, which is nice because we have control over that. But like you said, if we only had control over the other things, much more than we do. But that was one trend that was happening for a short little while at the beginning of this school year.
Yeah, group text messages, but on different platforms. Yeah, kids are so clever, so entrepreneurial. Scott, I'd love to hear from you. From your superintendent hat, what trends have you seen over the last few years that are the most troubling that you would want to alert other school districts about to kind of let them know what's happening?
I don't think anything I would mention is going to come as an incredible surprise, but the TikTok trends that we saw at the very beginning of the pandemic in 2021, 2022 still stick with me from how destructive our students were being challenged by online influencers to be, ripping door stalls off of the restrooms walls to soap dispensers to flushing toilet paper rolls and just causing destruction to school property was a major disruption. I think now we're shifting more in the environment of artificial intelligence and these deepfake videos, and whether they are bullying through making videos about their classmates or the threats that are there for even our staff members of receiving an invitation from me asking for a password or something I would never ask for. But when you create these very real life looking artificial videos asking for sensitive information, it puts people in a tough position. And I think that it's definitely not a positive, and it's putting them in a dangerous position.
I'm writing down the word deep fakes because I want to get both of you to give me your opinions on this. This is something we at SmartSocial are really fearful of. This is a world where it never happened before, right? And I want to dive into that in a sec. First, I want to start with Katie. Katie, how do you think a teacher, in a positive way, we're really positive here at SmartSocial, could utilize AI to help tutor their students or help in the classroom or give them more time with the students?
For sure. Staff are doing this already in our district. There are lots of different platforms that staff can use with kids in the classroom where it will pull up a chat bot that the student will be interacting with during class time. And the questions, the formative assessment that's taking place can either be something that AI helped generate based on an activity, or the teacher can provide a rubric and the objectives right there. So rather than like when I'm in the classroom going from student to student, one at a time, 28 or 30 kids, while I'm doing that, they are interacting already with the lesson objectives for the day with an individual AI tutor. So it has really transformed classrooms already with getting kids to the core of the learning that needs to happen much more quickly.
Yeah. Scott, I'd like to ask you the same thing. How can teachers, staff of any kind, utilize AI to really help them? We're all here to serve the students. And how can we do that very thing with AI?
Intrigued by what Katie shared. I go to a similar place, and it really is in place of instructional design. And what I've found, and believe research supports, the best instructional design is actually a rotational model in the classroom where small groups of students are getting one-on-one time with the teacher. And one of those stations could be very easily an AI-generated learning opportunity where students are working on a written prompt on how to learn how to engage with the artificial intelligence model and build an outline for a paper that they're working on. Or in the younger grades, in elementary, if it's Q&A or like Katie mentioned, a chat bot about some of a story that they read and how they're engaging in question and answer for deeper learning. And the depth of knowledge, I think, is the key. And a teacher can design that fairly easily in a rotational small group setting in their classroom.
I love that. I'm hearing a lot of other teachers also saying, hey, we turned it into a song, or Pythagorean theorem for younger kids. We related it to baseball because there's a diamond, and just amazing what we're hearing. So I agree with both of you. I think it's so fascinating. The next question I have for you is, what's the most common fear you hear from teachers about students using AI? This is something everybody talks about, but the follow-up question is, positive side of things, what can we do to increase learning and reduce cheating? So we get past that. Let's talk about a fear. And then what are some things we can do to overcome that?
Yeah, we, every time that I'm with staff and we're talking about this very question, I was just with an English department in one of our buildings last week. And we're talking about, we say AI proof, but essentially having teachers ask the question, what is the outcome? Go back to the beginning. What is the learning outcome of this? And finding different ways to make sure that we have student voice, student choice, creativity, and sort of making things AI proof. And I think that really empowers teachers to kind of get excited, a little spark into maybe switching up the curriculum a little bit. And it really will squelch the cheating fears if that's what they're, maybe one of their main fears about kids using AI.
The phrase AI proof means a few different things to me in the audience. Can you better describe that?
Sure. So I would say that, for example, if you were going to be writing a 5-paragraph essay, it's very easy for AI to generate. Now, granted, we do have some ways to look at students' writing if they're using, a Google Doc, for say. We can see how many times they pasted, how much time they spent in the document. If they wrote a 20-page paper and it took them 2 minutes, probably they used AI to do that. But what we're looking at really is an audit for assignments, an audit for the curriculum. Staff can start small, just look at one little lesson. They can scale that to an entire unit and then scale it to their curriculum. And I have a little audit for them to go through where they try it themselves. They take the assignment that they're planning on doing with students and they load it to AI and see what they can get. That's step one. And then we move from there for them to maybe re-envision to get to the learning outcome using a different path.
I love that. Scott, a question to you. What's the most common fear that you're hearing from teachers, staff, or even parents going, my kids are using AI, and what can we do as leaders to increase learning and reduce cheating?
I think the role that Katie and people like Katie and I have to play really comes down to breaking that fear down and beginning to eliminate it, because the reality is our students are not going to be without an AI-infused world for the rest of our lives. We've said something very, very frequently in District 214. Today is the slowest rate of change that we'll ever experience for the rest of our lives. And we have to stop being afraid of it and learn how we can embrace it and turn it to a positive. We're after depth of knowledge. We're after authentic learning. And whether you create a rotation model like I described in the classroom already, or some of the authentic checks that Katie said just to eliminate some of that cheating and put the boundaries on our students so that they know that we know what we're looking for and we're looking for that authentic learning. There's also things that we can do. Writing a good prompt is maybe one of the next gen skills that we have to really increase learning and increase our students' ability to write a really strong prompt so that they get the most out of the artificial intelligence output, so that they can actually use it to advance learning and advance whatever they're trying to produce. On the other side of things, our teachers have the ability, and fortunately we can provide this for them, something called a lockdown browser. There are instances where in a classroom, in maybe a testing environment or a free thinking environment where the teacher wants to create a moment for the students just to generate their own thoughts without assistance, that lockdown browser prevents them from leaving that prompt screen, and it's generally what the student produces. And a couple of classrooms that I was able to be in, the teachers reported that not only did the students have reported that their critical thinking were really pushed, but they actually enjoyed the distraction-free zone to focus on what they were doing, and they felt that their time was really well used. So I think there are a couple of really positive outcomes that can come in living in both worlds, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. We have to learn how we're going to work with it and advance what we're doing, because that's ultimately the goal. It's a tool to help us go further. So let's go further and deeper with the knowledge that our students are able to capture.
Yeah, very well said. Okay, the next question. Some leaders have mentioned that certain social media trends have caught them off guard at times. What kinds of social media issues tend to challenge staff when it comes to student tech use? And this could be any tech use, screen time, social media. Katie, I'd love to hear from you first.
Yeah, sure. I would say it's not as much of an issue now, but for sure, cell phones still come up. Even though we're a one-to-one district where every student has an iPad in hand, the cell phone, and typically kids now are on TikTok is where they're being, what they're dying to look at. And so, but in our district, staff have autonomy, but most staff have opted to have kids put their cell phones in a holder on the way in the door. I had one in my classroom. And if you do it on day one, kids just do it. And actually, like what Scott was saying earlier, where kids appreciated having that moment where they're like sort of required to be away from their technology, kids really like it. And they do focus more. You find that actually they're chatting with each other more when they dock their cell phones on the way in the door. So that trend seems to have not gone away. Like the background, whatever the social media that's pulling their attention might turn over time, but just the fact of them having that cell phone, even though they have an iPad, something about just the cell phone, if they can put it away, they feel disconnected.
I think the danger lives in the notifications, Josh. I had this conversation with my teenagers. I've got a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old at home. And it really is, do you need your phone to buzz every time a Snapchat comes in? And you're getting 5 buzzes every 3 seconds. And who can focus if your watch is constantly going off? I know I can't. If my phone is buzzing in my pocket and I don't have it in the cell phone caddy, how can we expect our kids to focus on learning if the distractions are coming in and their pockets buzzing every 2 seconds? And at the rate that I see these streaks and these Snapchat messages coming into my own children's phone, it's mind-boggling how frequent and how many students, their reach is so far. Focus is gone unless we take actionable steps to control that. And I think we can do that. And that's one of the areas that I'm successful sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes convincing them to turn the notifications off. You can go to the app when you have downtime and see that you've got 75 Snapchat notifications you need to respond to. But does your pocket need to buzz every single time you get one? No. I know I can't focus. I don't know anyone who can when that's going on.
Couldn't agree more. For all of our audience listening right now, these are important, tough parenting discussions you can have with kids. And maybe there's a family dialogue you have. Hey, we're going to have notification-free week. Let's all try it. Oh no, but I can't. I have to get back to my friends. But I think what the superintendent, what Scott just said is so important. When you have downtime, you go and you check that. And a lot of us too, we probably get a few hundred emails a day. Do we need each email to go boing, boing, boing? We find that that's not productive. Maybe every 30 minutes you're checking your email, every 15, whatever your employer wants. But is that something a student can do? I would agree with the superintendent. Our brain needs to focus. It's very weird to have that happen all the time. I'm in huge agreement. Okay, the next question for both of you. Katie, we're going to start with you. In conversations with staff, what do you hear them say is the hardest to keep up with? Is it social media shifts? Is it AI? or is it student screen time habits?
For me, for sure, it's the rapidly changing environment of AI. For sure. I mean, not a day, really, a week, a month goes by, and I feel like we're just sitting in a whole different conversation around AI. So for sure, it's just how rapidly that landscape is changing. For example, this week with the drop of Sora and how easy it is to make those AI deepfake videos. Yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of how quickly it's changing, but definitely that is top of mind for staff.
I mean, Katie, I would agree. I saw Mr. Rogers in some odd interviews yesterday online that were created that he would, saying things and interviewing people that he never would, which was really funny. But if you don't know that they're a deep fake, then you've got some trouble. And I would agree with you. Our education system has not been built to shift and change as fast as AI is pushing us to. So I agree with you there. But I go back to screen time habits. I think it's a real threat for our kids' focus. It is a time period in our teenagers' lives where they need to learn how to turn it on and turn it off. And we have to be really intentional about those conversations. My kids now, I'm not always good at it, but my kids now are, they get that chuckling, oh, here we go again, another family meeting. We're having a family meeting, we're having a conversation about how much we're on their phone. And they can point at me just as much as I point at them because it's not a kid thing, it's a societal thing. But we have to be intentional about our time together and how we connect as people. So we're not in this distracted environment. We're connecting with the people that are most important to us, whether it be learning or just socially with our friends or with your family. That's too valuable of time to throw away.
So true. Okay, one of the final questions I have, we often hear principals say that they feel pulled in many directions when it comes to digital safety and engagement. How can parents better partner with school staff to support students around screen time and social media safety? Katie, I'm going to ask you this first.
Yeah, I would say just creating a partnership. Districts need to set up a way for parents to engage with the school district. We have already reached out and worked with our local library and then one of our feeder elementary districts. So we did a night for parents at the local library, and we have some other things planned as well, just so that we can engage. So I think step one is that you actually have to have some sort of an avenue or a platform to engage with parents as step one.
We've actually taken that, Josh, and cemented it in our district strategic plan. We're in year one of implementing our new strategic plan, Future 214. And, goal 2 in our district is all around the sense of belonging. And sense of belonging for students, sense of belonging for staff, as well as parents. And we have a strategic goal to increase the number of community interactions in two-way conversation with our families each year. And the goal is that we'll increase those by 2 annually over the life of the plan. And, Katie's done some tremendous work in terms of taking some AI learning opportunities and preparing them. We're nearing the point we can go live with our families to teach them how we're planning to use AI and how they might be able to use them as a learning partner. But I think we as parents have to just be intentional about what we want out of our child's experience and how we can engage with the school. Everyone's time is extremely limited. No one has more time to give, and yet we all want more. But the time that we have with our students, we only have so many months and years with them in school. I say, all the time, we only have 720 days per school year with them, or for their whole lifetime in high school, 4 years, 720 school days. If we can get 3 or 4 of those a year from a family to engage in their child's learning, whether it be parent-teacher conferences or how they can support our work at home, I think parents would see a tremendous impact and their time would be well worth it.
Well said. To all of your audience members, we host weekly parent night events that are online. We do huge giveaways and all kinds of stuff to get you engaged. One of the biggest trends we're hearing in one of our parent night events is parents ask us, hey, Josh, what advice would you give to a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? In our parent night events, we don't have the experts answer everything. Sometimes we have teens. Let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life, and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, remember, districts all over the country are sending their parents to our weekly live parent events and replays. There's teen-led video lessons. You can actually bring your teen and you'll get less eye rolling than if you had preached to them in the beginning. And there's a premium parent newsletter. And remember, if you're struggling with anything, SmartSocial is here for you. We have the very best researched app guides for parents by our army of parents nationwide on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, and 450 more. They're not just in English, they're also in Espanol, in Mandarin, and 9 other languages. We have live events about protecting your child's confidence. It's AKA anti-bullying. Before you see it in your child or they experience it, we'll teach you how to deal with it, and lots of live events before you need it so you can have those dialogue starters that you need in the future. Okay, I want to dive back into our guest experts here, and I want to ask you the next question. What kinds of trends are schools seeing that involve Snapchat disappearing messages? We've all heard of this, right? Snapchat is ephemeral. It's gone usually soon, all kinds of different little features in there. Or secret Instagram accounts. For all of our audience, you've heard of me talking at other events about how predators will often say, I can't chat with you here. Go make a new Instagram and I'll chat with you over there. A secondary account kids can't get access to, such as bullying, harassment, or inappropriate sharing. Katie, I'd love to ask you first, what are some of these trends you're seeing around Snapchat disappearing messages or secret Instagram accounts? And what advice would you have for parents?
Yeah, I would say definitely talking to your kids about what accounts they have in the first place, and just having that open dialogue is always a great place to start.
Absolutely. Scott, what's your advice when it comes to disappearing messages or secret Instagram accounts?
I'll take this from a couple of different approaches. The first one was when I first, engaged with Josh and found SmartSocial just as a parent looking for resources to help my kids navigate this when they were just becoming teenagers. And I learned about the Finsta and how to look at, this is where I learned how to find out if my child had more than one Instagram account. So I did. That's a very useful resource. If you don't know about that, go seek that out. But for my role as a superintendent of a school district, we deal with threats, unfortunately, more often than schools should. And sometimes when they come in via Snapchat and they're disappearing messages, it increases the complexity that we have to go to in terms of finding the root cause and where it came and validating that threat. And the impact of that is far-reaching when it affects 1,500 or 2,000 students and how they feel about coming to school. But the answer is we do find out, and we do find the origination, whether it be through involvement with the police, if a search warrant is necessary, or working with Snapchat's parent company. We'll get there, but it leaves a lot of heartache in the wake, and it's totally avoidable. So on the bullying side of things, I'd be concerned because you get notified when Snapchat, your images is saved. And if you send funny images and you're on a streak, that can be easily turned into a bullying situation, and your child's lost control of that. So we need to remember that everything that is put online doesn't disappear. It never disappears. That metadata is there forever.
Yeah, so well said. Okay, some districts have said they wish they had more time to focus on student safety and parent engagement. What area would you tell other districts is the most important part to focus on to support parents? Katie, I'd love to start with you first.
Yeah, I would say the most important part to focus on to support parents is giving them just the knowledge that they need. For me personally, I'm doing a lot of training around AI so that parents understand how AI is being used with the teaching staff and with their student coming home, and what is appropriate and inappropriate use of AI. Again, coming back to just staying informed and having that line of communication.
Yeah, very well said. Scott, I'm going to dive into the next question with you. District leaders tell us that parent engagement helps them get ahead of future student social media problems. And the question I have for you is, what parent or student preventative education or measures would you recommend to other districts nationwide to get ahead of these problems before they happen on their campus?
Well, I think, I mentioned earlier that parent engagement is an intentional part of our strategic plan. We're measuring these engagements just to hold ourselves accountable. And I think we have to be, as school districts, we have to be intentional about being responsive to some of the requests from our families about what they'd like to learn about or what they are top of mind for them that we can be responsive to. But on the parent side, and I say this as a parent of teenagers more myself than telling parents what they should do, we have to remember that we're parents and we have to ask the tough questions of our kids and stay connected with our kids, which means we have to put our phones down and we have to put our work email aside. And I say this as not always being good at it at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And sometimes it's 9:30, 10:30 when the kid wants to talk. And embracing that opportunity to sit with them and talk about what's going on in their life and just listen. Because when they choose to open up, we have to capitalize on that and be sure we're that open ear for them, because that relationship is still the most important prevention tool we have to keep our kids safe, is to know that we love them and we care about them. We'll do anything for them, but we have to put action to that so that they know when they need us, they're the most important thing in the room. And sometimes that's hard in an incredibly distracted world that we live in, where our time is being pulled in all different directions. They have to remain our priority or else we'll be dealing with the problems that come from it for many years to come. And it's a lot easier to prevent those from happening than to have to rebuild that person.
To all the parents listening, that is the number one tip here today. If there's one thing you remember, it's that strong relationship and dialogue you have with your kids. You get 5 extra points, even if they roll their eyes. At least if you tried, you know that you're successful in telling them that they can come to you if they see something bad online.
Josh, I've banked a ton of those points with the eye rolling, by the way. My bank account's full.
You've done really great. Hey, to both of you, you both took a lot of time out of your really busy schedule. Thanks to both of you for joining us here today.
Thanks, Josh.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
To all of our audience members, remember, it's all about keeping your kiddos safe. Lots of dialogue so they can someday be successful. A little pro tip, we agree with a lot of these new countries that are saying, let's wait until 16 years old to give your kids social media. Your kids are going to hate me. Bring them to one of our next live events at SmartSocial. Let us have a talk with them about branding themselves online, how to avoid predators, how to be positive online. We'd love to have that talk with them because we're here to help you get not only less eye rolls, but also to make sure they're successful in the long run and they understand the downside. Not just mom and dad are restricting them, but everybody's here to support them. Parents, one last pro tip, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite when you're posting online because your kids eventually are modeling everything you're doing online. I'm Josh Ochs, the founder of SmartSocial.com. Grateful to our amazing guests here today. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great day. Thanks for spending time with the SmartSocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at SmartSocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Ochs, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.